Rob, you guys also put together these New Year's Six matchups, and you have some pretty compelling theater with some big traditional teams going head-to-head. What was the most challenging aspect of putting together the New Year's Six?
Well, obviously you want to get the matchups that reward the highest ranked teams as best you can. And then, you also want to pay particular attention to not sending the same teams to the same bowls. So those are kind of two pieces you want to make sure you get right.
We've been talking a little bit about motivation and teams having disappointments at not being in the playoff. What consideration is that given when you try to establish matchups?
Yeah, we don't give that much consideration. Obviously, we rank the teams and then, based on their ranking, try to place them in the right spots. But there isn't much conversation about disappointment and how teams will show up. This is based on the body of work to date.
All right, Rob, you've done a great job in terms of being the chair of the selection committee. It's year one. They always say the biggest improvements from game one to game two, maybe year one to year two. What's been the one thing that you would look at that you would say that you've learned the most about the process and functioning as effectively as you have in your role?
Well, fortunately, I had an opportunity to be on the committee for 2 years and see Kirby be the chair and also work alongside Jeff as a committee member at the same time. So I learned a lot from those guys. But, we have a great staff here at the CFP, outstanding membership. And I think the one thing is to just make sure that you pull out everything from all these football experts. There's 13 football experts. And as a chair, you want to make sure that everything gets on the table and you set up a system and a process whereby everybody can be candid, everybody can bring their expertise and make sure that it gets on the table. And so that's the part that I want to make sure we get right.
Rob, I got one quick question here for you at the end. In terms of making these New Year's Six matchups, UCF, Florida, in-state matchup, what consideration was given to having the Knights play against the Gators?
Well, as we looked at those 4 slots that we were going to fill, Michigan being ranked number 7 obviously deserved to stay closest to home. So that's what placed them in Atlanta. Obviously, UCF had played in Atlanta last year. So that kind of set them in the Fiesta Bowl. And then it just made sense to put Florida into the Peach and then LSU out to the Fiesta.
Sure, there's some disappointment, but Urban loves the tradition, and he referenced the conversations that the two of you have had about the Rose Bowl.
I find it amazing that he's never been there.
Yeah.
And now he's going to bring a team outside of the tunnel and to be able to bring them out into Pasadena and play in the Rose Bowl. He's grew up in Ashtabula, Ohio, and he's been with the Ohio State program as a GA, and of course as now a head coach. And I know the playoffs are a big deal for everybody out there, but when you're from Ohio and you're the head coach at Ohio State, and it's the first time you're taking a team into that venue with the field, the setting, San Gabriel Mountains, he'll be hyped. He'll be very hyped. It'd be great to see.
And he's going on with the quarterback that just had.
I'm getting hyped.
Because y'all get it, but we didn't get it. Like we played in the South, like
the Sugar Bowl.
The Rose Bowl aspect of it. Like until you go, you really don't. And we've done game day there the last couple of years, but I didn't get that growing up. Like I didn't. Y'all.
Yeah,
y'all lived for
that.
Which
is understandable. And it'd be the same way if we came down south and went to bowls down there. Where we go, Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, but the Sugar Bowl is sacred down.
4 or 5 times.
I mean, growing up in Canada, I was thinking about Maple Leaf Gardens. I don't know about you guys, but whatever. Keep going.
But he's going to Rose Bowl with the quarterback just had the best season passing the ball of anybody ever in the history of the Big Ten. And it's probably unfortunate this will be the last time we see him play for Ohio State. He's had a terrific year, and Dwayne Haskins will make a trip to New York, hopefully, for the Heisman presentation. But this team, at the end of the season, was a team we were expecting to see at the beginning and throughout this season, a more balanced team against but if you say we saw them at the beginning, I mean, that defense, though, they gave up 31 points to Oregon State. And if you go look back at Oregon State's season, I don't know how many times they scored 31 points.
They didn't.
And so, exactly. And so it was a defensive issue there all season long. They had some games in there, but they are peaking now. And it's going to be an interesting matchup with the Washington team that we talked about struggled to get points in the Pac-12 championship game.
But a very good defense.
Ohio State should be favored.
I think I'll look back at this 2018 Ohio State team and just always remember how resilient they were. And getting through the 3-game suspension of Urban Meyer at the start of the year, then all of a sudden losing Nick Bosa for the season who could be the first pick in next year's NFL draft, and having to overcome that on a defense that was already struggling and giving up way too many explosive plays, and then a 29-point loss against Purdue, one that nobody saw coming in a game that easily could have derailed the season. I just think their ability, even though it was too little too late, or even their ability to come back late in the year and in a giant rivalry game against Michigan, put up 62 points and sort of salvage their season in that giant rivalry game, move on to win the Big Ten championship, put themselves in position to send Urban Meyer to his first Rose Bowl, to me, is very, very special what this team was able to accomplish.
Kind of Urban Meyer's strength is working the psyche of a football team.
Totally.
And I think the reason we saw him stressed out at times on the sideline is because he couldn't get this team to turn. He couldn't get them to buy into some of the emotional aspects of the game and how important it is until the Michigan game. He finally got them to come out and play up to that ability because they were backed into a corner. Not a whole lot of people thought they could beat this Michigan defense, and they torched them, and they played inspired. It carried over into Indianapolis. As Joey said, now they hit this Rose Bowl playing and hitting on all cylinders to see if they can keep that mojo going.
Coach looked good. Good coloring. Looked better than we've seen him on the sideline.
Good coloring.
I'm just telling. Like, there's times on the sidelines he looked.
He
may have just
pale,
taken that
looked
tan,
fatigued.
yeah.
And I still wonder, and y'all might not, but I still wonder if this is the last time he will be the coach at Ohio State. If this is the last game, the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
What I was about to say.
I don't wonder that. I believe he'll be back for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
and if he is, I mean, they certainly have talent coming back. But I agree with you. You do wonder the magnetism of the Rose Bowl and the opportunity. Is that the high point to step? I don't know.
I felt leading into the Michigan game, based on his mannerisms and knowing him pretty well, that I thought that was a very fair question. I think he looked like the Urban Meyer have come to expect to know on the sideline at Michigan. I thought it carried over into Northwestern. So, boy, he looks different, and I'm sure when he gets on the sideline at the Rose Bowl, he's going to really have that energy going.
That juice.
Yeah. So
As long as
I don't
this
know.
team continues to play the way they did.
Yeah.